Namaste, and welcome to 10 Minutes with Dr. Marc Halpern. That's me, and I'm honored to share this sacred time with you. Today we're going to talk about Prana, Tejas, and Ojas. This is the second part in a series on Prana, Tejas, and Ojas. If you haven't listened to the first part, I would recommend that you do so that you have a deeper understanding of these three subtle energies that govern the functioning of your mind and aid in the cultivation of consciousness. Today, I want to explore how to bring balance back to Prana, Tejas, and Ojas. Just a very, very quick review before we get started. Prana is the energy of desire that motivates life. When prana is healthy, we have a healthy desire for life. When prana is too high, we have too much enthusiasm. When prana is too low, we feel a little depressed. We don't have very much energy. Tejas is the energy that brings about discernment and brings about clarity and allows us to perceive the truth. Tejas can be too high, and when Tejas is too high, we have too much discernment. What that means is that we don't recognize the truth when it is in front of us. We just can't see it because the light of Tejas is too bright. Tejas is, in fact, light itself. It's the light of the mind that illuminates the truth. We would think it would be great to have lots of Tejas and see the truth. But if you've ever had a light shine in your eyes, you know that you can't see anything. When Tejas is too low, we don't see anything either. When Tejas is too low, then we lose our capacity to discern and we become gullible. When Ojas is too high, Ojas is the energy that brings about the stability of the mind. When Ojas is too high, we lose our capacity to be motivated. We would think that Ojas is very good to cultivate because it brings contentment. Too much, you might think, well, I'll just have more contentment. But in fact, when Ojas gets to be too high, we feel like we have so much contentment, we think, well, why should I bother to do any more work? Why should I bother to work on myself or do any more spiritual practices? Everything is fine. So we lose our motivation. We become complacent. When Ojas is too low, we lose our contentment. When Ojas is too low, we are complaining, we are discontented, and we have all kinds of symptoms that emerge in the mind. What we want is for Prana, Tejas, and Ojas to be equal. We want them to be equal to each other, and then we want to cultivate all of them together. As I discussed in the first video, increasing and decreasing Prana, Tejas, and Ojas is really an important conversation to have, but we must understand that these terms are relative to one another. When we say prana is high, we simply mean that it's higher than Tejas and Ojas. So therefore, we want to lower prana, increase Tejas and Ojas. When we say Tejas is too high, it's relative to prana and it's relative to Ojas. So we want to lower Tejas, increase prana and Ojas, get them equal again. When we say Ojas is too high, we mean that Ojas is high relative to prana and Tejas. So again, we want to equal them out. That's our goal. So we have to know how to increase or decrease each one of them so that we are able to return them to a healthy balance. Let's talk about prana first. So prana is the energy that motivates life itself. When it's too high, you might be anxious, you might be having a difficult time sleeping because, well, that's what happens when you have too much energy moving through you. There are times too when it's too low, and now we're depressed. People have learned how to manage their prana a little bit. Unfortunately, they do it in unhealthy ways. People try to increase their prana by taking in caffeine. It gives them a little bit more energy. We drink coffee, we drink tea. People take stimulants in order to increase their prana. Some people even take drugs like cocaine in order to do that. Some people also take drugs to lower their prana. When people take sleeping medications and antidepressants. Well, that artificially lowers the prana. Well, how can we cultivate prana in a healthy way? Prana is cultivated in a healthy way by taking in the right foods that are high in prana. Fruits and vegetables are the foods that are going to be the highest in prana. When you drink fruit juices and you blend them up, and vegetable juices and those types of foods, or salads, well, that builds up your energy, and it does so in a healthy way. Also, many yoga practices build up your prana in healthy ways. If you do alternate nostril pranayama, or you do chanting, work with mantras, these also increase your prana and do so in a healthier way. So if you need to increase your prana, change your diet to have more fruits and vegetables, and also utilize pranayama techniques and other yoga practices to increase your prana. Now, what about tejas? Well, tejas can artificially be increased as well. It's artificially increased in bright light. It's artificially increased in by taking things like alcohol. It's artificially increased, especially by taking psychedelic drugs. It increases the light in the mind and helps us to discern. It can even help us to see through the veil of illusion toward higher truths, which is why individuals take it when they want to have a psychedelic experience and see beyond the physical realm. However, it has its consequences, because anything that increases your prana artificially or increases your tejas artificially will decrease your ojas. And then you can lose the stability of your mind and also the stability of aspects of your body. So those are unhealthy ways to cultivate tejas. They're unsustainable. How do you do it in a healthy way? Well, Ayurveda teaches that you can cultivate your tejas through study. When you study higher truths, when you listen or write or read about the higher truths that have been expressed by the rishis or the great teachers of yoga. There are also some practices like breathing practices called Kapalabhati. This is a breathing practice that can also enhance your capacity to see beyond the veil of illusion. There are many other mantras as well that you can work with. Suffice it to say that there are yoga practices that are healthy for cultivating your tejas, just as there are yoga practices that are healthy for cultivating your prana. Then you can do it without the extreme measures that are going to rapidly lower your ojas and might bring you into an energetic crisis. Now, if you need to adjust your level of ojas, and most people need to increase their ojas, the way to do that is twofold. First of all, don't overly stimulate your prana with those stimulants. Don't overly stimulate your tejas with excessively bright lights and psychedelic drugs and even intense psychedelic colors. Too much of that too can actually artificially stimulate your tejas and lower your ojas. So how can you do it healthfully? It really comes down to one thing that is the most important thing that you can do to build up your ojas and increase your contentment and stability of your body and mind. That one thing is to enhance the quality of your digestion. Ojas is produced through the healthy digestion of the right foods. And the right foods are foods that have ojas building potential. Interestingly, these are not your fruits and your vegetables. These are your heavier foods that are going to be more difficult to digest. This includes whole, healthy, organic grains. This includes nuts. And this also can include oils such as sesame oil and ghee. And it can even include root vegetables. So there are some vegetables that are ojas building potential. They're your root vegetables, not the leafy vegetables that build your prana. And finally, there's one more thing that you can do in order to utilize diet in order to build your ojas, and that is to take in more dairy. Now, I know that dairy is a controversial subject, and you'll probably find more videos from me on YouTube and other places where I've talked a lot about dairy. For dairy to really build your ojas and to really be a positive experience for you, it must be fresh, it must be organic, ideally it should be raw. And if you take it warm with the right spices, you'll digest it well, unless you're lactase deficient. And you will be able to build ojas. In fact, it's the richest source of ojas. So if you can get some raw cow's milk, warm it up, add in the cardamom and cinnamon, and drink a cup of that warm each day, maybe even take it in 2 half cups. It's like a medicine for building your ojas. Well, I hope that this talk today has given you some ideas of what you can do to balance prana, tejas, and ojas. When all 3 of these are balanced, and then you cultivate them all and increase them all, these same energies that balance your mind become the energies that expand your consciousness. They will support you to have a deeper connection to the greater whole. And with that, the heart opens, and you will experience deeper love, greater kindness, greater compassion, and that sense of universal connection that we all crave. Many blessings to you on your continued healing journey. Namaste.